Imagine setting out to create the supreme architect of the universe.
Yeah.
Like you are building a belief system completely from scratch, and you need a ruler.
Right. You need the top boss.
Exactly. And modern logic suggests you would make him, well, morally flawless,
Yeah.
omnipotent, like he's operating with this pristine, infallible master plan.
That is definitely the modern expectation. Yeah.
But instead, you design a serial cheater who is absolutely terrified of his wife. He's constantly outsmarted by his siblings, and he basically just throws lightning bolts whenever he gets angry.
It's hilarious, but it's also this bizarre, deeply contradictory reality of ancient mythology.
It really is. And it
Yeah.
completely shatters that comfort of a top-down omniscient creator.
Oh, for sure. Because when humanity first started codifying the divine, they didn't project perfection up into the sky. They projected their own profound dysfunction,
Your anxieties.
Exactly, their anxieties and just the terrifying unpredictability of the world around them.
Well, we are tracking that profound psychological shift today. Welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive for you, the listener, into your provided source material. We're looking at excerpts from Edith Hamilton's seminal work, Mythology.
Such a classic.
It really is. And our mission here isn't just to, list off the mythological roster. We want to decode the human mechanics behind these myths.
Yeah, the why behind the what.
Right. We want to understand how humanity evolved from viewing the universe as this terrifying, chaotic force that birthed incredibly flawed gods to eventually inventing a highly bureaucratic afterlife.
A system that functioned almost like a cosmic credit score.
A cosmic credit score, exactly. So to understand that psychological evolution, we really have to look at the fundamental power dynamic of Greek creation, right?
We do. And it is the exact inverse of what most modern people expect.
How so?
Well, the gods did not say, let there be light and create the universe. The universe actually created the gods.
That is such a massive shift in perspective. It changes the entire nature of divine authority.
It changes everything. Heaven and earth were the first entities. They acted as the primal parents.
They gave birth to the Titans, right?
Right, these massive elemental beings. Like ocean, which wasn't just a body of water, it was literally a river encircling the earth.
Wow.
And Prometheus, who eventually saves mankind, the gods we actually recognize, the Olympians, like Zeus and Hera, they're just the grandchildren.
They're basically third-generation management.
Yes, third-generation management who seized control of an already existing, super hostile universe.
And this victorious third generation, they set up shop on Olympus, which, according to the source, undergoes its own fascinating transformation in the ancient mind.
Oh, the evolution of Olympus is so interesting. If you read the early passages of the Iliad, Olympus is very clearly a physical location.
Like an actual mountain you could point
Exactly, the peak of Mount Thessaly in Greece.
to.
But as Greek society advanced and, their geographic knowledge expanded.
People inevitably climbed those mountains.
Right. And when they got to the top and didn't find any gods sitting in the snow, well, Olympus had to evolve.
It had to move.
It moved and became this mysterious gated region far above the earth.
The source material describes it as this perfect, untroubled luxury resort. Like, there's no wind, no rain, no snow.
Just perfect weather all the time.
Yeah. And the gods just lounge around, feasting on ambrosia and nectar, listening to Apollo play the lyre. But the management of this resort is a total mess.
It's a complete disaster.
I mean, Zeus is the CEO. He wields the thunderbolt. He wears the aegis, which, and I found this fascinating, is often just casually mentioned as his breastplate.
But it's so much more than that.
It's actually this terrifying goatskin shield bearing the head of the Gorgon. It literally induces uncontrollable panic in anyone who looks at it.
Just casually wearing panic-inducing armor to dinner.
Right. So he has all this terrifying gear, but he is completely lacking in absolute power.
He is not omnipotent, and he is certainly not omniscient. I mean, he is frequently duped.
Constant.
Poseidon and Hera outmaneuver him all the time. But most crucially, Zeus is bound by fate.
Fate is higher than Zeus.
Exactly. Homer writes about Hera openly mocking Zeus, asking if he actually believes he can save a mortal that fate has already doomed.
So the supreme ruler of the universe is still chained to a mysterious cosmic destiny he cannot control.
Which is pretty terrifying if you're an ancient Greek relying on him.
Yeah. And knowing that your supreme god is limited in power is one thing, but knowing he is fundamentally compromised in his morality is another.
Oh, the morality is rough.
Zeus is infamous for falling in love with one mortal woman after another. And he uses these absurd tricks like turning into an animal or a shower of gold just to hide his infidelity from his wife Hera.
A shower of gold, it's so over the top.
It begs the question, Why ascribe the behavior of a sleazy politician to your most majestic god of the storm clouds?
Well, the source provides a brilliant historical mechanism for this.
Yeah.
Zeus's endless infidelity is essentially a byproduct of religious expansion.
Okay, unpack that for us.
So, as the worship of Zeus spread from town to town across ancient Greece, his cult encountered local villages that already had their own divine rulers.
And their own earth goddesses.
Exactly.
So it's basically the religious equivalent of a massive corporate acquisition.
Yes, Zeus is a messy corporate merger.
Like if a local town worships a specific goddess, the priests of Zeus come in and say, "Great news, your goddess is now married to Zeus."
And you do that across 50 different towns, consolidating all the local copyrights under the Zeus brand.
And suddenly your supreme deity has a rap sheet of endless love affairs.
Exactly. And the later Greeks actually struggled deeply with this. You had philosophers trying to reconcile the low trickster philanderer of the old stories with the high, glorious god of truth who demanded ethical behavior.
They were forced to maintain these two completely conflicting ideas of Zeus simultaneously.
That had to be exhausting.
And that friction between the glorious god of truth and the messy local deity creates some incredibly baffling contradictions within the rest of the Olympian family, too.
Because they were all stitched together from different eras and local traditions.
Right. They developed these extreme dualities. Look at Apollo. On one hand, he is the god of light and truth. The texts literally say no false word ever falls from his lips.
He's the master musician, the healer.
The pinnacle of Greek poetry.
Yet embedded right alongside that poetic ideal are unmistakable traces of primitive cruelty.
He can be totally pitiless.
He really can. But Apollo's internal conflict is nothing compared to his twin sister Artemis.
Oh, Artemis is completely fragmented.
She represents this terrifying uncertainty between good and evil, largely because she absorbs so many disparate ancient deities.
Yeah, she's celebrated as the protectress of dewy youth.
Yeah.
She's careful to preserve young, wild things.
Yours sounds lovely.
It does. But then, the Greek fleet could not sail to Troy until they appeased her by literally sacrificing a young maiden on her altar.
Just a stark contrast.
If you are an ancient Greek, how do you reconcile the protector of youth with a deity demanding human sacrifice?
You reconcile it by understanding that the gods are mirrors of nature, and nature itself is deeply contradictory.
That makes a lot of sense.
The moon can guide you through the dark, or it can cast terrifying shadows. Artemis is the maiden goddess of the hunt, associated with Selene, the radiant moon in the sky.
But she also absorbed other figures.
Yes, she absorbed the mythology of Hecate, the goddess of the crossways in the lower world.
And Hecate is dark.
Very. Hecate is associated with dark magic, deeds of darkness, the terrifying unknown. So Artemis embodies the radiant light and the ghostly, bloody crossroads at the exact same time.
We see that same multifaceted complexity in Hermes, too. I mean, the popular visual is the swift messenger of Zeus with the winged sandals and winged hat.
The classic FTD florist logo.
Exactly. But he is also the master thief who stole Apollo's herds before he was a single day old.
A literal baby stealing cows.
He's the god of commerce, the protector of traders, and this is a wild pivot, the solemn guide to the dead leading souls down to their final rest.
He's shrewd and cunning, but also this grim psychopomp.
Right. But, okay, I have to stop and push back on one of these Olympians because the logic breaks down for me with Ares.
The god of war.
Yeah. If I am an ancient Greek warrior gearing up for battle, why on earth am I worshiping Ares?
It's a great question.
The source material notes that Homer calls him murderous and blood-stained, but also a whining coward.
A literal crybaby.
He bellows with pain and runs away when he gets hurt. His own parents, Zeus and Hera, detest him. Why create a god of war just to actively despise him?
Because the Greeks, unlike other ancient empires, did not universally romanticize the battlefield.
Really?
Yeah. Ares is not meant to be an aspirational role model. He is the embodiment of warfare's hateful, ruthless, and terrifying reality.
So he's the ugliness of war.
Exactly. When Ares walks into battle, his attendants are discord, strife, terror, trembling, and panic. War, for the Greeks, was largely processed as a traumatic curse.
They needed a god to represent the blind destruction of conflict, not the glory of it.
Which makes the Roman approach to the exact same god look even more extreme by comparison.
Oh, completely. The Romans transformed Ares into Mars, and they stripped away all the cowardice.
All of it.
In the Roman epic, the Aeneid, warriors rejoiced to fall on Mars' field of renown. Mars is invincible, glorious, and deeply imperial.
Because the shifting view of what a culture values dictates the personality of their gods.
That's a great point.
The Greeks valued intellect, poetry, and tragedy, so their war god is a brutal fool. The Romans valued militaristic expansion and state power, so their war god is the ultimate patriot.
And if you want to see the ultimate reflection of a culture's values, you don't look up at their sky gods. You look down.
To the underworld.
Yes, you track how they engineer their afterlife. The evolution of the underworld is basically the evolution of human justice.
It really is a direct parallel.
In the earliest Greek writings, like Homer, the underworld lacks any real architecture. It is just a vague, shadowy pit.
Yeah, the existence of ghosts is described as being like a miserable dream.
So the Homeric underworld is essentially a collective, gloomy waiting room.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if you were a hero or a villain. Everyone ends up as a shadow in the same gray expanse.
There's no moral sorting mechanism at all.
None. But fast forward centuries to the Roman poet Virgil, and suddenly the underworld is a meticulous, highly detailed geographical landscape of reward and punishment.
It feels like humanity invented a credit score for the soul.
That is the perfect way to describe it.
You arrive, and there's a strict bureaucratic process. You meet Charon, the ferryman, but he won't take you across the river unless your family place the passage money on your lifts before burying you.
The ultimate toll booth.
Right. Then you bypass Cerberus, the three-headed guard dog.
Right.
And then the soul audit begins.
The audit is intense. You are hauled before a tribunal of 3 judges.
Rhadamanthus, Minos, and Aeacus.
Yes. And they review your life's actions and pass sentence. If you fail the moral test, you are cast into everlasting torment in Tartarus.
And if you pass?
You are sent to a place of blessedness called the Elysian Fields.
So if the Roman underworld is a credit score, Tartarus is the ultimate cosmic collection agency.
Exactly. And Virgil didn't just map out the afterlife, he built a psychological infrastructure using the 5 rivers of the underworld.
Oh, the rivers. These aren't just bodies of water, they are emotional barricades.
They map out the process of dying.
Yeah, you have Acheron, the river of woe, and Cocytus, the river of lamentation.
Which represents the profound grief of dying.
Right. Phlegethon is the river of fire, representing torment. Styx is the river of the unbreakable oath. And most practically, you have Lethe.
The river of forgetfulness.
Because to truly move on to the afterlife, the soul must literally wash away the memories of its earthly existence.
The level of categorization is absolute. They even systematized human psychology.
With the dreams, right.
Yeah, dreams, they believed, ascended from the underworld through 2 specific gates.
A gate of horn for true dreams, and a gate of ivory for false, deceptive dreams.
Everything has a place, a category, and a function.
I'm looking at this massive shift from Homer's blurry, ambiguous underworld to Virgil's hyper-organized judicial system. And to me, it feels like society wasn't necessarily becoming more ethically pure.
No, probably not.
They were just getting terrified that bad actors were getting away with crimes on Earth, and they desperately needed to invent a system where the scales were forced to balance in the end.
That's incredibly insightful. As civilizations grow larger and more complex, their legal structures must tighten to prevent collapse.
You can't rely on the honor system anymore.
Exactly. A sprawling empire cannot survive on a vague notion of right and wrong. The underworld evolved to mirror the Roman obsession with law, civic duty, and absolute order.
The anxiety of a massive, heavily populated society requires the comforting threat of Tartarus just to keep people in line.
It's deterrence on a cosmic scale.
And that obsession with hyper-practical, granular organization bleeds perfectly into our final stop in the source material.
The Roman gods.
Yes. Before Rome absorbed the poetic Greek pantheon and renamed them, their original religious system was shockingly functional.
It was entirely devoid of the colorful, messy stories of Olympus.
We are talking about the Numina, which translates to the powers or the willpowers.
The early Romans were fiercely pragmatic farmers and soldiers. They did not have the luxury or the desire, really, to sit around composing epic poetry about a god's tragic backstory.
They just wanted invisible powers that specifically ensured their daily survival.
And the granularity of the Numina is astounding.
It really is.
Yeah.
They worshipped a specific power that guards the cradle. There was a dedicated willpower that presides over children's food.
Terminus was the guardian of boundaries. He literally protected the property lines between farms.
There was a helper of plowmen. I look at these Roman numinas the same way I look at modern smart home devices.
Oh, that's a brilliant comparison.
They are deeply integrated into the background of your daily routine. You rely heavily on them, but they utterly lack personality.
You don't need your thermostat to have a character arc.
Exactly. You just need it to regulate the temperature. The Romans prioritized a god of children's food over the violetress muses of the Greeks.
It is an OCD level of spiritual micromanagement because their external world was so volatile.
And the most revered of all these Numina were the Lars and the Penates.
Right. Every single family had a Lar, which was the deified spirit of an ancestor.
And they had Penates, which were the gods of the hearth and the specific guardians of the family storehouse.
You didn't just visit a giant marble temple once a month. You worshipped these willpowers in your home at every single meal.
A portion of the food was always offered to them.
They were the invisible defensive line holding the household together.
Even when the Romans did elevate larger deities, they grounded them in total practicality. Take Saturn.
Before he was fused with the Greek Titan Cronus, Saturn was simply the protector of the sowers and the seed.
And the Romans revered him immensely because he was credited with bringing the Golden Age to Italy.
Which brings us to the festival of Saturnalia.
Oh, Saturnalia.
It was their attempt to recreate that golden age every winter, and it functioned as a vital societal pressure release valve.
Because Rome was an incredibly rigid, hierarchical, militarized society.
Extremely rigid. But during the Saturnalia feast, the rules inverted. No wars could be declared. Executions were suspended.
But the true radical nature of the festival was the temporary equality, right? Slaves and masters ate at the same table.
It was a brief, institutionalized memory of a time before the crushing weight of their own civic structure existed.
They needed that release valve because the rest of their existence was just consumed by conflict.
Constant conflict.
We see this with Janus, the two-faced god of good beginnings and good endings. We get the month of January from him, looking back at the old year and forward to the new.
His chief temple in Rome had two massive doors.
And those doors were kept open when the city was at war, and only closed when Rome was completely at peace.
And Edith Hamilton points out a statistic that defines the Roman psychological reality.
This blew my mind.
In the first 700 years of the city's existence, those doors were closed exactly 3 times.
3 times?
3 times in 7 centuries.
Knowing that the doors of Janus were basically permanently open puts their desperate need for the Numina into perspective.
It really does.
If your entire culture is locked in a 700-year state of near-constant warfare, of course you need a spiritual smart home.
Of course you're going to pray to the guardian of the pantry and the protector of the threshold.
You are attempting to exert a microscopic level of control over your home because the world outside your door is inherently dangerous.
When you step back and look at the entirety of these mythologies, from the Greeks accepting a chaotic, morally compromised universe to the Romans attempting to micromanage their anxiety through divine bureaucracy, you realize these are not just dusty fables.
Yeah, they are.
This is a historical map of human cognition.
We are watching our ancestors grapple with the exact same fundamental problem we face. How do you organize the chaos of reality?
The Greeks looked at the unpredictability of human desires, the violence of storms, and the trauma of war, and they built a messy corporate structure of Olympians to explain it.
The Romans looked at the terrifying scale of their empire and built a cosmic courtroom and an army of invisible willpowers to manage it.
The vocabulary has changed, but the human instinct remains identical. We are still desperately trying to map the chaos, enforce justice, and find a sense of order in our daily routines.
Which leaves you with a final thought to mull over, something to take with you long after this deep dive ends. Think about the Roman Numina, those formless, invisible willpowers that dictated the simple, practical acts of daily life.
They were everywhere, guiding everything.
Yet entirely unseen. So what are our modern Numina? Think about the algorithm.
Oh, wow.
It is an invisible power that we constantly try to appease. It guides our attention, sorts our news, manages our feeds, and shapes the boundaries of our daily routines.
We check in with it constantly.
Every single day. If archaeologists thousands of years from now uncover our deep, constant devotion to our devices and the invisible code that runs them, will they look back at us and conclude that we, too, worshipped our own set of formless willpowers?
We definitely offer it a portion of our daily lives.
It is something to think about the next time you refresh your feed.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the source material.